NISP has to stop at Road 2 at the county, but I think there are a lot of projects that we could work on together, and I'm here to issue the invitation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gary Kreutzer. Mr. Kreutzer, name and address for the record.
Gary Kreutzer, 314 South 14th Avenue. And yes, I am Ken's brother, for the record. I have lived in Brighton a little bit longer than Ken has because I'm older. We used to, I believe, come to this very spot and pick tadpoles out of the water ponds and take them home and let them grow into frogs. You know, Ken has been almost his whole life in Brighton. He loves this town. He's been a teacher for many years. He's a very honorable man. He has taught me a lot. Hopefully I've taught him a lot. But one thing that has been really hard the last few weeks is that I go out and see, I got a lot of friends in this town, as we all do. And of course, they all know that I'm the mayor's brother. And they say, what's going on? Well, when Ken became mayor, or ran for council, I believe 4 years ago, it's kind of, oh neat, I can get some insights. Even though I did work for Excel Energy at the time and did have some insights. But I did find out that due to personnel, privacy, and legal matters, he couldn't say everything. And he'd have to say, wait, I can't say. And right now, I think this is a very moment that he is in right now. I know there's been a recall started. There again, everything, you know, where do you get your facts from this recall? He has been accused on several things with the water issues that, again, like Missy, my niece, has said, the facts aren't there. He's in favor of the audit. He wants to get going with things. And he's never said he's been against the forensic audit. So keep in mind with this, folks, as the night goes on, there's things that can't be said. Yes, we all want answers. We do. But there's sometimes, due to legal HR reasons and things like that, that they can't be having. But I do know he loves this town, and he would do nothing to hurt this town. So please, thank you very much.
Peter Phipps, been a while. Peter, name and address for the record. There you go, set your time, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Peter Phipps. I live at 168 Plum Avenue, Brighton, Colorado. Yeah, it's been a while. Promised you guys when we got my issue settled to resolve, because that was all we were going to do on it, I left you alone. Well, it's kind of funny how a little couple of people voting against each other at city council gets everybody riled up, because when I started years ago trying to make my community a bicycle-friendly community and open a bike shop in town and do all that, you guys didn't always put me at the top of the agenda like you did tonight. Thank you very much. I used to have to sit through hours of meetings listening to water reports and South Main Street projects and vision statements and, oh, shiny object, let's go build a park downtown, and things like that. And I'm kind of not unhappy with what's going on now. A little bit. The reason that there's 9 votes up here is because there's 9 people that we elected to represent our views, and you're all entitled to your own views. And a lot of times we're not privy, like people have said tonight, to the information that's available. But And when everybody goes, hey, we ordered a Friends of God, it's great, people. I'm just gonna turn to the audience and say, remember the investigation of South Main Street that was this thick, that the public statement was 25 pages long? Diluted, it started with this diluted statement of the investigation. We never found out the truth, the full truth. I brought evidence myself after fighting with the city for 2 years. I was lied to, withheld information, had evidence destroyed, was told to sue the city, was locked out of an open public meeting. I wish all these people would have been there. So this really all goes back to the culture that since the former city manager developed in the city. And culture's hard to change. Anybody that was involved with the city and knowingly approved water budgets that they knew weren't wrong and didn't follow city policies and loan money when you don't have the right to, and we still have a $5 million loan out there that's coming due. You got to when the new city manager came in, you came in and asked for change. You asked for change and you asked for things. The tree had to be shook a little bit. There were some people here who needed to lose their jobs, and there were several of them that were handled immediately. Namely, the assistant to the city manager and the finance manager were immediately let go after just the information that was released. But you asked the man to come in and do his job. I don't know all the information. I thank the man for his time, but you're lucky to have an employment contract, fella, because most of the rest of us don't. You're gonna get a severance contract. You'll be able to go on with life. I don't think anybody says tonight's gonna change anything tonight. And personally, if I were you, I don't think I'd want to work for this city council anymore. You know, move on. That's the whim you work at the whim of city council. Some of these people are highly educated, highly experienced in city government. Some are public citizens that are just trying to help. And with that, that's why you get an employment contract. The last city manager that we fired, it took us a year for me to get there with him. Then you paid him $250,000 and gave him a retirement party. Did y'all go to that? That must have been kind of awkward. By the way, you're fired, but here's your cake. So I hope you've all learned a very valuable civics lesson here. I think that the next city manager, whoever you choose, you'll have a much more open experience. You now know that the city manager doesn't tell you how to run the city, that it's your jobs to guide the city, that's what we elected you to do, to keep controls, to do your homework, to read the budgets, to ask important questions. Don't just be one-on-one with the city manager and going, this is what we're doing, it's okay, right? Ask the hard questions. Read the laws, read the Colorado laws. Don't trust what anybody's telling you. That's what we elected you to do. I thank you for serving. I've ran for city council. I've considered many times rerunning, and I like to sleep at night. So thank you for your lack of sleep, because it's appreciated by all of us. Because I know how emotionally involved you are in this. This is part of a very big part of your lives, and I do appreciate your efforts. I also would like to take the last 20 seconds and thank you for approving the Brighton consent agenda. I wish it wasn't on the consent agenda, so some people would actually talk positive about the development in our community that we've done. We're not nearly there. You have to keep going. With the growth rate we're going, we are behind where we were 8 years ago when I started that project. So please keep funding the city streets and improving the pedestrian access in our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Next is Wayne Scott. Wayne Scott. Well, you know the drill. Name and address for the record in 5 minutes.
Wayne Scott, 274 South 3rd Avenue. Mayor Kreutzer, City Council. I came for 2 reasons tonight, and I signed up for 2, and then you put them together. So I'm going to try to talk about both of them at the same time and yet separate them. So the first one has nothing to do with employment or employment issues. It's a request that I have, along with some fellow citizens I've been talking to, so we might get some information to understand what is happening here. And so the request is that you have a public meeting where your utility department puts forth information around your 20-year capital improvement fund. So you could tell us what projects are in play, what projects have been completed, what projects are planned for, when they're planned to be finished, and their projected costs. You could tell us the reason for them, and we would have some information that could be helpful to us. So I know you recently replaced your utilities director, but I guess you have a new one. And I know you have a lot of really good professional staff on the utility departments. They have this information at their fingertips, they know it, they work with it every day. I think you could have that put together for some kind of a public meeting within a couple weeks, and we could have that information. We wouldn't have to wait for this audit to come in, which is important, but we can start getting some information. Along with that, I think, because that meeting would take some time, that you could do a second meeting, and that meeting would be around the OEM, the utility departments, the operation, equipment, and maintenance budget of that department. And you could bring us those budget dollars for this year, if you have them projected for next year, and 4 or 5 years of the past historical data, so we could look at that, along with projected growth and what that would mean to that budget. Those things would be very helpful for us as we try to look through this and see what's happening and what's going on. I think that's a separate issue, and that's why I wanted to talk about that separately. On your employment issue, well, let me say, so I was the mayoral candidate in the runoff against Mayor Kreutzer. So it comes a little bit, I guess, unusual, and something I never expected to come here and support him. We do have our differences. Some of them are policy, and we still have them. I'm sure we will. But this recall at this time is not needed. It's tearing our city apart. It's avoiding us from looking into the real issues and figuring out what's going on with the water issues. So if I can say that, I hope others can too. From what I've seen since Mayor Kreutzer was elected, he's been involved, and I don't believe any of this council has anything but the best interest of Brighton in their hearts. I think sometimes personal, past histories and all that kind of stuff get in the way, and we forget about what's in our heart. But I know you all, if you sit down and really think about it, have Brighton's best interest. I know most of you personally, so I know that for a fact. But thank you for your service. I appreciate it. And again, I just don't think this is the time for a recall effort around an employment issue that, and this is what I do for a living, an employment issue for public employees that would never be public. That just doesn't happen. No matter how much the public wants it to, the legal people up there wouldn't let it happen for threat of a lawsuit. So anyway, I support you. I hope we can get past this and figure out what happened with this water issue and get it under control. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Chris Maslanik.
A bunch.
Mr. Maslanik, name and address for the record. You have 5 minutes.
Kind of short, I've got to move this down. Mayor and Council, thank you for having me speak this evening. My name is Chris Maslanik, 243 South 7th Avenue. I, as well as Wayne Scott, have a couple issues to talk about. I'm going to start with the employment issue, and some of this is for the public to hear and understand, as well as my statement to the council. We elect a city council to make decisions for us. We have a charter within the city that gives them parameters and guidelines. One of the parameters and guidelines is that the city manager serves at the pleasure of council. The fact that this has been made a public issue seriously questions the leadership of some of the council and questions what your true intentions are. I'm not talking about all 9 of you, I'm talking about a few of you. We are sitting here telling our citizens that the city manager that they hired is not doing their job. However, at last meeting, I witnessed 2 council members get up and leave their seats before this meeting was over. I believe that's called abandoning your job. You're not holding yourself to the same standards that you are holding people that are quote unquote under your employ. I don't believe that is good leadership. I think it's grandstanding, and I think it's completely inappropriate. The citizens don't work with Mr. Rodriguez on a daily basis. We don't know how he interacts with the rest of the staff of the city. We don't know how he interacts with you guys on a day-to-day basis. That's your job. We trust you guys when we vote for you that you're going to do that job. The fact that it's become public shows me that you're not doing that job correctly. And I hope you guys correct that within the next 4 months or whenever our next election is here in November. I served in the same seat you guys did for 4 years. I've served 7 years as a planning commissioner. I can tell you that I've never seen a group of people that does not work together in my entire professional career. I don't know if it's personal agendas. I don't know if it's personal issues. I don't know if it's professional issues. But you guys are not showing this city that you're unified and that you can collectively make decisions for this city. As with Mr. Scott, I know each and every one of you individually. Individually, you all are great people. No issue there whatsoever. But collectively, I don't know what's happened, but you guys have 4 months, well, 6 months to fix it until this council changes again. And I hope for your sakes and for the sakes of what you're leaving behind with your legacy of serving behind this seat, that you guys figure that out and have a serious heart-to-heart with yourselves and fix it. On to water. Social media has been awry with the $70 million number that's out there. I'm going to stand in front of the citizens of Brighton and stand in front of you guys and say that I'm very happy to see that we have $70 million there. In 2012, when I was sitting behind that seat, and some of you were there, Councilman Wallen, Councilman Baca, we directed the city manager to start putting money away. We directed him to do that so that we could compete with other cities that are trying to get water that Brighton's going to need to grow. These cities include Denver, Aurora, and Commerce City. The fact that there's money there is because it's exactly what we planned, and it's exactly what we asked for. Last fall, a comment was made that the money was a slush fund, or that personal aircraft was being purchased with it, or vacations were being had with it. Fully unfounded. We are a city that grew unexpectedly. Unlike the mayor of Fort Lupton that spoke before us, we didn't have a long time of city vision to look forward and plan for these things. Brighton blew up. Brighton blew up with DIA, E470, industry that's come to town. We've been reactionary in our growth. We had the opportunity in 2012 and 2013 to start controlling some of that, and we did. And this is a result of that. I don't believe that anybody on this council has done anything corruptly. I don't think you've done anything ill-intentioned. We've been through 2 city managers, 2 utilities directors, and 2 finance directors since this water fund came into play. That's a lot of turnover, and that's a lot to keep up with. So I think some things just got overlooked, and I don't believe they were all taken into consideration.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Next is Magdalena Nina Delbiar.
Thank you for having me this evening. I've always taken pride
Name and
in
address
living
for-
in,
name
oh,
and
I'm
address for
sorry.
the record. The one time I didn't say it. Name and address
Magdalena
for
Del
the-
Viat,
Yeah,
313 North 9th Avenue.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've always taken pride in our community. I've served, I've taught here, I go to church here, I buy here. I'll buy here before I go out. Lately, not so much. I haven't been prideful of this community the last few days. I'm always thinking of the citizens of Brighton, Colorado. Because I live here. I've lived here all my life. I think of the children. I think of the senior citizens in our community. I think of the families. And when I hear that we have a pot of money, and when we're not transparent or you're not transparent, the mind goes crazy. Okay? I think of the families who have to choose to pay their water bill or put food on the table. That is not okay. We are supposed to take care of our neighbors. Shame, shame when we fail to do that. I went fact finding. I'm still waiting on phone calls. I don't know what your policy on return calls are, but I've been waiting for a call back. Because I didn't want to come up here and fly by the seat of my pants. I wanted to have facts. And I appreciate the people who did get back to me. Transparency. I care about the human being. I care about the city manager. When I stop and look at a person that you guys hired, thought he was the best, his reputation, his family is going to suffer. And I'm sorry, I call a spade a spade. It's a crock of crap. When I hear the excuse of, oh, it's the personnel. Well, this water thing goes back since 2011 or 2019. Show me the money. I know we have bills to pay. We need to have better water. Of course we do. Pay for it. I've been asking, what's the cost? 30 million. People are saying $30 million. Okay, then do the decent thing. Pay, take care of, like I pay for my stuff at home. Pay for what needs to be fixed. And give back to the community what is ours. It's not yours. It is ours. You know, I stop and I think, because I'm an educator, was there due process? You know, there have been people in my life that I don't like, and that's okay. I pray for them, and I try to understand why. And I try to be fair and just, because I'm a believer in peace. If we want peace, we have to be a justful people. We shouldn't be out destroying other people's livelihoods.
1 minute.
How would you like that to be you, your family? We're supposed to be good neighbors. I consider myself a Christian. And I stop and think, what would Jesus do? Would he have embraced the city manager, or would he have kicked him to the curb? Ask yourself that question. When we are decent people, we do what is decent. Now it's up to you. And I want to see the money. No more cop-outs. 2011, hello. We need answers. As a community, we need answers.
Lisa Voss. Lisa, name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes.
Lisa Ross, 5056 Longs Peak Street, Brighton, Colorado. I just come before you and I want to say, Ken, my character, when it's challenged, that's the worst thing anyone can do to me, so I get it. And our city manager that you guys are getting rid of, I mean, character is everything, right? That's what matters to me. So Jesus is the Lord of my life, and I just always want to honor him. So I come before you as a real estate broker owner. Oh, okay. I come to you as a real estate broker owner in this community. I serve all of Colorado. I also do senior placement with the Right Place for Seniors. Water is the only thing that can put a lien against your property. So any of you who know, when we get these huge water bills, and I know that I'm not pointing fingers of who did it or why our bills go up and down, and I call when you have a new house and you have a $300 bill and, oh, you must have a leak, when you never find a leak, and next month it's $20 or $50. So I'm not blaming anyone, I just want to know why. And again, if we can't feed our family because we have to pay our water bill, because we don't want to lien against our house, because if I have to sell my house, I can't have a lien or I won't get my money. And also seniors, I heard out here, and I don't know how, I haven't lived here that long, 6 years, that there used to be a senior credit or a discount on our water bill, and they took that away. Okay, I know, we came here on a fixed income, my husband is disabled. My taxes have gone up outrageously, and that, whatever, that means our values have gone up, so I'm gonna hold my tongue. But I know seniors deserve a discount, and if we have excess money, they should be getting it. Seniors, and I just think it's fair. We lower their taxes, and I just think that's fair. So all I say is, let's all come together, and you know what, those of you who want to speak for your community, that we voted for you in our district, our ward, please hear your community, and I think it's okay if you stand up for us. Whether it's one way or the other, I think our voices need to be heard. And I think that's how it should be everywhere. Also, I think that it is very important that everyone be respectful, because again, a fighting community gets us nowhere. But at the same time, it's okay to be different, and it's okay to have our own opinion. So just do the best for the city. I love this city. My whole family moved here, and we love it. I know there's a lot that needs to change, and that's just over time, but just let's get to the bottom of it. And again, thank you all for serving. Thank you all for, anyone in public office, everything you do and feel is out there. So I thank you guys for doing it. We appreciate it. Have a good
Thank
day.
you. Stephen Runfola? Name and address for the record, you have 5 minutes.
Yeah, Stephen Runtola, 260 12th Street Circle in Brighton. I'm not used to doing this, mainly because I don't follow local politics that well. But I have to tell you, and I agree with some of the speakers, when you go to the water department and you say, why do I have this bill? And they say, oh, you've got leaks. So you spend $1,000, have a plumber out there to check all of your irrigation systems and your toilets, make sure nothing's leaking, and nothing is. But you got this outrageous water bill. And I say, well, what happened? And they said, well, you don't have a senior discount any longer. I said, oh. Then I take a look at the breakdown at 4,000 gallons, and you start paying more. Well, hell, you can't flush a toilet 4 or 5 times a day without hitting that magic mark. So then I hear all this stuff about $70 million and a buyout to a city manager, and all this money that we're gonna spend on a forensic investigation. I gotta tell you, I've heard numbers all the way to millions of dollars for a forensic evaluation. And I have to tell you, with my background in law enforcement and as an investigator for a major insurance company, I had forensic audits done, and they don't cost the amount of money that I hear being tossed around. I don't know if it's true or not. $70 million sounds like a lot. I think everybody ought to have a little money in their back pocket for emergencies. But I think we've overlooked something here, and that's transparency. I don't think anybody in the room can say it's 70 million or 60 million or 80 million or what it's there for. And I'm not throwing rocks at anybody. I mean, if I want to throw rocks, I'll throw rocks, but I'm not throwing rocks at anybody. You're all public servants, and God knows what that involves. But why do we want to keep this thing close to the vest? Why don't we put it out and call like the state inspector general and say, hey, here's our problem, we're having an audit done, you folks look at it and tell us where we are and what we need to do, instead of destroying a city manager. I don't know what he's done right, I don't know what he's done wrong. Like I said, I don't normally follow politics, but I do know that you just can't come up and whack somebody because they bring something to everybody's attention. That's not how I think we ought to run our city. So I'm not gonna give you a lot of platitudes and all the rest of that stuff. I'd just like to see something really get done that's honest and it affects everybody in this nice little town. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Elaine Townsend?